Let me tell you, if you had asked me years ago if a single moment could change the course of a life, if a small, stubborn act of kindness could actually ripple out and shift everything you thought you knew, I'd have laughed, you know what I mean? But I'm here to say, yeah, that happened, and it started one grimy, hot evening under the Ashodi Bridge, right as dusk was smearing the sky purple and gold. There was Jerry, just off work, sweat and cement dust clinging to his shirt. When he saw him, a man who looked less alive than lost, collapsed right there in the dirt, white kaftan gone muddy, beard wild, eyes searching but empty, like he'd been erased from the world and only Jerry could see him. People walked by. Some hissed, "That boy's looking for trouble. Who knows? Maybe that old man's a ritualist." Others muttered, "If he dies, police will blame you." But Jerry didn't listen. Maybe it was the voice of his father, a civil servant who used to say, "Kindness may not fill your belly, son, but it'll fill your soul." Maybe it was just exhaustion, or maybe it was fate. Either way, Jerry squatted down, lifted the man up like he weighed nothing, and carried him straight into a cab, past the staring crowd, heart hammering in his chest. He had no idea he'd just saved the missing father of one of Nigeria's richest men. No clue his own story was about to get rewritten right alongside that stranger's. Back then, Jerry was just 17, scraping by since the car accident that stole his parents and left him to fend for himself in Mushin. His family? Gone. His relatives? Turned away, one after the next, leaving him with nothing but his father's last pay and the memory of his mother's gentle hand. He worked construction, hauling bricks beneath the same bridge where he'd meet his destiny, giving away what little he had to anyone needier, a bottle of water, a smile, a moment's kindness. When he found the old man, Baba Sam, he spent his last coins on a hot meal, nursed him through the night, asked nothing in return. And when Baba Sam finally found his voice, trembling, he whispered a name, Maxwell Obener, billionaire, father. Jerry nearly dropped his phone, dialing the number with hands he could barely steady. 30 minutes later, a convoy of SUVs rumbled down the dusty street, neighbors peeking out barefoot, jaws dropping as Maxwell himself burst into the room, weeping at his father's feet. He turned to Jerry and said, "Pack your things. You're coming with us." That was it. One act of kindness, and the walls of Jerry's tiny room seemed to fall away, replaced by marble floors, fountains, fresh sheets that smelled like rain. In the mansion, Jerry was given his own room, bookshelves, a computer, a bed bigger than his old apartment, and introduced to Leliana, Maxwell's daughter, whose laughter was bright, whose curiosity matched his own. They became study partners, both dreaming of medicine, spending long afternoons beneath the garden's flowering trees, nights whispering hopes beneath the stars. Maxwell treated Jerry like family, never charity. And Baba, grateful beyond words, always called him the boy who saved me. But you know life never moves in straight lines. One rainy night, flipping through Baba's photo album, Jerry spotted a face, a young woman beside Baba, cradling a baby, handwriting on the back. "Graceoina, my daughter." Jerry's mother. The truth hit like thunder. Baba was his grandfather. Maxwell his uncle. Leliana, his cousin. He staggered to Baba's room, the photo trembling in his hand, voice shaking as the old man confirmed it. Grace was his child, Jerry her son, kept from the family to protect him from their world. Jerry's head spun. The girl he'd grown to love was his blood. When he told Maxwell, the billionaire's eyes filled with tears. "All these years, I had a nephew just miles away. My own sister gone." That night, Jerry sat under the stars with Leliana and told her everything. Silence stretched between them. Shock, grief, relief, all tangled up. "What now?" she whispered. Jerry just looked up at the sky, said, "We'll figure it out. Together." Weeks turned to months. They still studied, but there was distance now, a wall of secrets they could see but not break. Jerry asked Baba for advice. "Love takes courage, not certainty," the old man said, smiling, remembering his own complicated youth. University exams came. They scored the highest in the state, admitted side by side to the teaching hospital. College life was a blur of lectures, sleepless nights, the quiet understanding that whatever else had changed, their friendship was real. Graduation arrived. Jerry and Leliana stood on stage, best in class, their family beaming. That night, in the moonlit garden, Jerry took her hand, knelt with a ring he'd saved months for. "I love you," he said. "I don't care about titles, about what people say. I only know that when I look at you, I see my future." She cried. She said yes. Even Maxwell, after long talks and some sideways glances from his friends, gave his blessing. The wedding was a national story. Billionaire's daughter, former laborer, hero's bloodline. But to them, it was just the beginning. Marriage was messy, imperfect, full of little arguments and inside jokes and late-night cups of tea. Jerry never forgot where he came from. Each month, he visited the Oshidi Bridge, offering food, kindness, medicine to those still lost in the cracks. When years passed, and there was no child, whispers grew. Hospital visits, sleepless nights, hopes slipping. But then, one night in the garden, Aleliana came running, tears and laughter blending. "I'm pregnant." 9 months later, Jerry held his son for the first time, listening to Baba's blessing echo from a phone call. "Let this boy carry the strength of his father, the wisdom of his grandfather, and the kindness that saved me." Baba passed soon after, peaceful at last. He was mourned as a national hero, but to Jerry, he was the reason for everything. The family built a hospital for the poor, named after Jerry's mother and grandfather. Jerry stood at the opening, son on his hip, telling the crowd, "I was once the boy who had nothing, but I carried a stranger and found a family." Later, in the quiet garden, he whispered to his son, "One day, you'll hear this story. The story of how your father changed a life by stopping when everyone else walked by." And that, my friend, is how it all happened. Kindness costs nothing, but it can make you rich in ways money can't touch. Now, tell me, if you were in Maxwell's shoes, would you have let Jerry and Aleliana marry, knowing they were cousins? Where do you stand on family, forgiveness, and fate? Drop your thoughts below, share your story, and if you want more, you know what to do. Subscribe and stay with us for the next chapter. If you ever think life hands out happily ever afters like some kind of reward for being good, I'm here to remind you, it doesn't work that way. Not where I come from. Not even in a house filled with trophies, diplomas, and the laughter of children echoing down marble hallways. You see, after the grand opening of the Grace Sam Oina Memorial Hospital, you'd think Jerry's life was locked in. He'd done the impossible, risen from nothing, built a family, and even given back to the city that once ignored him. But in reality, the day the governor cut that ribbon was the start of something new, something heavier, something that would test everything Jerry believed about kindness, justice, and where you draw the line between helping and enabling. At first, the hospital was a miracle. People came from everywhere: homeless mothers, street kids, old men who'd once slept under the same bridge as Baba. Nurses worked overtime. Doctors treated wounds and illnesses no one else would touch. And Jerry, now Dr. Jerry, walked those halls with pride, stethoscope swinging, always with that old humility still shining in his eyes. Aleliana thrived, too. Patients loved her gentle touch, her calm, her humor. Maxwell funded new wings, sent food every week, sometimes even rolled up his sleeves to hand out lunch in the courtyard. It felt like the city was healing, one small kindness at a time. But you know the world never stops spinning. You open the door to the lost and forgotten. You also invite their pain, their stories, and sometimes their anger. About 6 months after the hospital opened, a case arrived that would shake everything. Late one night, rain battering the roof. A group of angry neighbors burst through the doors, dragging a bloodied teenager between them. "He's a thief," someone yelled. "Caught him trying to rob Mama Kemi's shop." The boy, barely 15, eyes wild with fear, begged for help, clutching his bleeding arm. The nurses hesitated, glancing at Jerry. He remembered himself, hungry and desperate. The way people looked at him after his parents died. Like trouble, not like a boy. Jerry stepped forward, voice firm. "Here, everyone gets care. No exceptions." The crowd argued. He should be in jail. But Jerry stood his ground, stitching up the boy's arm, watching as his tears mingled with rain. That night, Maxwell called. "You did the right thing, Jerry. But you know not everyone sees it that way." Sure enough, by morning, rumors were flying. The new hospital was a hideout for criminals, a place that cared more for thieves than victims. Some donors threatened to pull out. Even Baba's old friends sent messages. Are you sure you're helping the right people, Jerry? Let me back up a sec, because this was the first real test. Was kindness just a blanket you throw over everyone, no matter what they've done? Or did justice mean something else? Jerry wrestled with it all week, barely sleeping, replaying that boy's eyes in his mind. Liliana held him at night, whispering, "You can't fix the world alone." But Jerry wasn't so sure. He remembered his mother's voice. You do what's right, not what's easy. Things got worse before they got better. Someone spray-painted the hospital gate. Traitor's Clinic. Anonymous letters landed on their doorstep, accusing Jerry of using the hospital to shelter criminals, of being a puppet for Maxwell's dirty money. One night, rocks shattered a window in the pediatric ward. Jerry gathered the staff, hands shaking but voice steady. If we close our doors, what do we become? Just another private hospital, locked away from the world? That's not why we built this place. A twist no one saw coming. One morning, the same boy Jerry had saved reappeared at the gates. This time, not with wounds, but with his little sister, burning with fever. He stood there, nervous but proud, and when Jerry asked, "Why did you come back?" he answered, "Because you didn't judge me. My sister deserves a chance too." Jerry treated the girl, and before they left, the boy pressed a crumpled note into his hand. It read, "Thank you for seeing me as more than a mistake." But not everyone was so forgiving. The shopkeepers' union threatened a boycott. A local councilman demanded an investigation. Was the hospital too soft, attracting trouble to the neighborhood? Maxwell stood by Jerry, but tensions rose even in the family. At dinner one night, he said, "Sometimes, kindness can be mistaken for weakness. Are you sure you're not being used?" Jerry stared at his plate, unsure how to answer. Liliana took his hand beneath the table. Solidarity. No words needed. Then, another storm. An anonymous whistleblower claimed some of the hospital funds had been misallocated, stirring suspicion. Reporters showed up, cameras rolling, sniffing for scandal. A senior nurse resigned, citing safety concerns. Social media exploded. Is the Grace Sam Oina Hospital a front for corruption? Jerry felt the city turning cold. The same city he'd bled for. The same city his kindness had rebuilt. He stood in the garden that night, rain dripping from the leaves, asking the sky, was Baba right? Does kindness have limits? As if on cue, Liliana joined him, her hair wild in the wind, eyes fierce. "You never built this for applause," she said. "You built it for the lost, the ones like you, like Baba. If you walk away now, he'll be there for them." The next morning, Jerry called a press conference. Cameras flashed, the world watching. He stood, not as the miracle boy, not as Maxwell's nephew, but as a man who'd once been hungry, who'd carried a stranger, who'd learned the cost of compassion. He spoke of the hospital's mission, of the need for forgiveness, of second chances. He showed the boy's note. He owned up to every error, promised transparency. He challenged the city. If you want justice, it starts with empathy. If you want change, you have to risk being misunderstood. The tide began to shift. Donations returned. The hospital board cleaned up its books, hired an independent auditor. Jerry started a new program, pairing former street kids with volunteer mentors. The teenage boy became one of the first volunteers. He kept the note Jerry gave him, now creased and faded, in his wallet. Yet, even as the hospital's reputation healed, a new debate sparked in the city. Were places like this truly solving the problem, or just making it easier for people to avoid consequences? Was kindness ever enough in a world so broken? Jerry didn't have the answer. He just kept showing up, one act at a time, never closing his heart, never forgetting the boy he'd once been. And somewhere, on a quiet evening, you can still find him standing beneath the old garden tree, watching the lights of the city flicker, listening for the next soul who needs saving. Wondering, what would you do if it were your choice? Where do you draw your line between justice and forgiveness, between protecting the innocent and giving a second chance to those who've fallen? That's life, you know, not a fairy tale, but a story still being written, chapter by chapter, in the hearts of those brave enough to care. Now it's your turn. Tell me, if you were Jerry, would you have opened your door that night, knowing the risks? If you were Maxwell, would you keep funding a hospital that's both a sanctuary and a lightning rod? Drop your thoughts below. Share the story, and don't forget to subscribe, because this journey is far from over, and the next chapter might just be yours.